Hello guys, Omni here. I wanted to talk about my thoughts on season 3 of Young Justice Outsiders. It finally aired its last batch of episodes on the DC Universe app this past Friday. I was a really huge fan of the first and second season of this before it got taken off the air on Cartoon Network, and it was a blast. I really like this interpretation of the characters. They all had their charms. It had a much different feel and approach than what we had seen in the previous Teen Titans series, which I also really liked. Having much more of a playful anime kind of inspired spin on that. This one definitely took things and made it a little more serious and played things out in a very more dramatic kind of way, integrating the a lot of characters that I think general audiences aren't too familiar with. They opened up the plethora of the hero catalogs and villains that a lot of people aren't too familiar with, and even introduced me to some that I hadn't necessarily heard of or had fleshed out too much. It was really, refreshing kind of going into that, in kind of the vein of the old Justice League cartoons in a way, or Batman the Brave and the Bold, which, as it was more geared towards children and a more lighthearted kind of tone. It did shine a light on a lot of DC's lesser known characters, both villains and heroes. And Young Justice really kind of did that and really kind of told some really mature, interesting storylines with these characters, some really emotional storylines with these characters. And I think that's how it resonated so well with people to get it to resurface when DC Universe came out with this app. And they had this release plan where they released 3 episodes, I think like every 2 weeks or something like that, or every month. I can't remember what their exact release schedule was for it, but I myself kind of got a little irritated and fed up with trying to, all right, 3 episodes dropped this week, so let's check them out. And I don't know, it kind of rubbed me weird in the wrong way that having a single episode come out weekly is one thing, but I don't know. It was just difficult for me to catch up with it in that kind of format. So I just decided to wait until it all came out, and it all released this past Friday. And I ended up binging the like 16 ish episodes that I had left to watch in the past couple days. And overall, it has its problems. It's not a clear, concise ending that I would have liked. It closes a lot of avenues in a good way, but it leaves enough open for a season 4. And I think it even is definitely is hinting at, a continued story. But I haven't heard anything confirmed. I also haven't really looked into it since I just finished the season myself now. With it having just concluded now, I don't know if they're now going to start talking about a season 4 or not. With the future of the DC Universe app kind of in question as well, with Warner Brothers rolling out their own streaming app alongside it. I know they've said that for the time being, it's going to stay its own thing, but shows like Doom Patrol, Titans, and all of that are going to be moving to HBO Max. So I don't know what the future of this is going to be going into the future. So I'm not sure where this is going to leave us and the characters. And we may end up being in a similar boat as we were when season 2 ended and the show didn't get renewed. So I don't know. Overall, I really like this season. It definitely had some pacing issues. I think there's a lot of filler in it, and we don't get to the namesake of the season until the later half. We don't actually get to the Outsiders portion of it until the second half of the season. And that's when it really started to get interesting for me. I think mostly for me, the first 16 or the first 14 episodes, 13, 14 episodes, really just felt like filler or setup. I think having like a smaller batch of episodes to do that would have felt a little better. There's a lot of side stories that we dive into that never end up going anywhere or resolving anything. It kind of makes me feel like they were just kind of padding it out a little bit, but overall, I really liked what it was kind of going for in this. The morality of super. It almost kind of tackles the superhero question of should they be deputized, should they be part of the government, kind of in the way that The Boys tackles it. In the way the Civil War tackles it. There's even like the proposition of a registration act brought up in it, kind of marrying that, trying to kind of bring in this kind of real political issue that with the Justice League being kind of hampered by that because they're in the public view, they're in the public eye, they're being held accountable for their actions, for the things that they do wrong or don't do wrong, of course, because Lex Luthor is part of the Senate, so of course he's kind of biased in these opinions and steering things in certain ways and spinning things to kind of bring the Justice League down. And that's where we create the group of the Outsiders, a rogue group of teens that, of course, being underage characters for the most part, are, have less restrictions when it comes to the law because of their age, but also because they aren't part of a government controlled segment of these superhero teams, because even the Titans is an outshoot of the Justice League, so they all have to be managed, they all have to report, get things approved and all that stuff. And it talks about how the bureaucracy kind of inhibits us from being able to act in responsive ways. And there's a lot of fun little things they do to kind of topic on that. And I really like the evolution of this. Beast Boy's arc in this season, I think, was a really great. Artemis, Tigress, whatever you want to call her at this point. Her arc is really good. There's a lot of really good emotional arcs in this, and this season also got to take extra strides since it's not airing on a network television, and it gets brutal. It gets gory. I think the introduction of Cyborg, once his story actually unfolds and he's born, that it's one of the most graphic displays of the state of Victor Stone prior to having the cybernetics installed on him. I was not prepared for how graphic that was. It was really intense. It was really visceral. And there is no way that a network or even their original network, Cartoon Network, would ever air that episode. There's a lot of mature themes in this. It doesn't feel like it's hammered in there or forced in there. It's all fluid, natural stuff that we have in these real world settings. There's even an episode that does focus on talk about domestic violence in a way that actually made me tear up just a little bit. And I really liked those more adult tones that this went into. And it was really, I really enjoyed this season overall. I really like this series and I would really like to see it continue. So I really enjoyed it. That's about all I can say for it. I really liked this season. I really had a good time watching it. Having the light and all the characters that they have as part of this this not quite Legion of Doom, but it might as well have just been the Legion of Doom. But I really liked it. And there's some progressive elements in this that I really enjoyed too and didn't see coming, but they were pleasantly surprising. And I really thought they were really touching. There's a lot of things in this that it touches upon that I know previous networks would have just been too afraid to kind of tackle with what at the time was a kid's cartoon. And this is still, I still think this is definitely weighted more towards young teens. I don't think it's like, oh, you can't be under 18 and watch this, but I don't think you definitely shouldn't be. Young ages shouldn't watch this. At least from my perspective, at least it does go a little more than I think some younger audiences, as they would have been at the time this was on Cartoon Network, a little too much for them, at least in my personal opinion. That's what I thought about it. But overall, I really enjoyed the season. It wasn't always consistent, but overall, I had a good time. I think it executed what it was trying to do a little more very well. But overall, if I have to give it a rating, I'd give it a B, a low B, a 7 out of 10 probably. Because I do feel like there's storylines and things you could have done to really kind of trim out the fat and had a more contained and straightforward story, because there's a lot of side plots that kind of go on that don't really go into anything or pay off. So there's a lot of things that I think it was mostly them trying to like world build, but I can recall at least 3 or 4 different things that we just kind of stopped the plot for it to focus on that just never came back up again. You could have easily probably cut this down to like 20 episodes or less and had a much more tight consistent story throughout. So I think that kind of hinders it in the long run. But that's my thoughts on the season. Want to know what you guys think? If you've watched the season, if you were fans of the initial seasons, let me know what your thoughts on this were. If you had any complaints, any praises, anything you wish they would have added or tackled, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know your thoughts. So at the end of this, that's about all I've got to say at this point. So thank you guys for hanging out. If you like this video, make sure to support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what you didn't like. But that's it for today. So I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.